Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today, as you can see in the title of the video, we are doing the top 30 most anticipated solo games. This list comes from my Rolling Solo board game community on Facebook, and it is a group that you can actually jump into if you would like as well. The one thing I want to note about this video in general is the fact that the channel has is either cresting up against 25,000 subscribers or has already gone over it. That is super exciting and ridiculous to even think about that we've even hit that kind of a level. Now, in the grand scheme of YouTube channels, it's peanuts, it's nothing. But I'm happy for anything and everything. Any support absolutely is big to me. And I've always had a passion for solo gaming. There's nobody else at the table when you're playing solo games. So you basically keep yourself entertained. Same thing as on YouTube. If not a single person was watching these videos or cared to watch, I still believe I would still put these videos up in the hopes that just one person might find the videos entertaining. I just enjoy the process. I enjoy playing solo games, and I enjoy recording them and then sometimes actually looking back on them and, looking back at my initial experiences with a game and then where I'm at when I'm more experienced with it down the road. Things like that are fun to do. So anyway, long story short, I had no idea I would be able to hit this kind of a milestone, and this is just one way I could give back to you guys as a big thank you. So what I did was I chucked a poll out to my Rolling Solo Facebook community just to specifically ask what games are you guys most excited about, and I left the poll completely open so that they could put in as many entries from any kind of game as possible. I didn't want to list out the most popular obvious ones. I wanted to basically open end this thing and just have a massive list, and we got as big of a list as we could get, but I had to shrink it down to 30 because otherwise this video would go on forever. And, now we've got an actual top 30 most anticipated solo game list from the Rolling Solo community. So this has nothing to do with my voting whatsoever. This is the people speaking. The one thing I will mention that was super interesting to find out through the results of the poll, which you will see as we go through, and the reason I have Kickstarter up on the screen right now is literally every single game on this list is a Kickstarter. And of course, there will likely be games that are closer to actually delivering than others. Some could be years away, some of them could be a month away, and that could also skew the voting one way or the other. This list could probably shuffle positions of this top 30 50,000 bajillion different times. And that's a very accurate number I just gave you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to dive into a quick summary, because I've already wasted way too much time in this introduction, of each of these different games at a high level, how they did on Kickstarter, a very high level statement of what they're about, and just a video to show you guys, what the gameplay looks like and what the game visually looks like, so that if you are interested in any of them, you can either find those videos on my channel or elsewhere. And again, all these are on Kickstarter, so you can find information about them there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin this top 30 list. Really excited and hope you enjoy. Coming in the 30th position on the list is Final Girl from Van Ryder Games. As you can see here, there are 4 different horror experiences that you can have within Final Girl. I was fortunate during the Kickstarter to be able to play through one of them, doing a setup and overview and full playthrough of that prototype. It was a lot of fun, and the coolest factor of this entire campaign was the fact it's solitaire or solo based. Has that horror element, as you can see quite clearly in the video here playing, and also the fact that it funded extremely well. It almost made it just under 500,000 US, and this being a solo focused game, those are big time numbers, and just about 5,000 backers, and that's not even including anything that would have happened in the pledge manager after the fact, of course. This is definitely one that I recommend you check out if you're looking for a more compact and more streamlined solo experience. Holding on to the 29th position on this list is the Everrain. This comes from Grimlord Games. This project raised 464,000 US and above on Kickstarter, as well as having 3,900 backers behind it. It's a 1 to 4 player cooperative story-driven exploration game in a world on the brink of annihilation. There is a great evil coming. It will arrive and unmake this world, whether we choose to believe in its existence or not. That is the premise behind the Ever Rain. And if you're looking for more information on this one, as I didn't and wasn't able to cover it during the Kickstarter, then you can check out the Kickstarter campaign page for more information, as well as the updates and where they're currently at. In position 28, we have Dawn of Madness from Dimension Games. If you're familiar with Deep Madness, this is the same group that put together that particular game, a very tough one, and this is focusing on a true horror experience, as it shows right there on the screen, and definitely from the vibe of the artwork and everything going into this campaign, which raised a crazy amount of money, $1,261,000 plus US, with over 8,000 backers. It's very, very successful, but you can see it's definitely going for some extreme horror vibes, and it looks like it's going to deliver on the artwork side of things. I'm very excited to see if the gameplay is going to measure up as well. Holding on to the 27th position on the list is Chronicles of Drunagor Age of Darkness. This comes from Creative Game Studios. The Kickstarter itself raised $543,000 US and above, most likely. 3,400 backers plus, and as you can see from the video on screen, the actual visual of this dungeon crawler, that is a cooperative one for 1 to 5 players, is certainly a different layout than normal. Everything is not sitting flat on the table. 3D trays are part of this, and they have created basically a leveling system to this in terms of the environment itself. So you can be at the base level, the next level up, and then the next level up beyond that, which will introduce, obviously, benefits likely in combat when going across these tiles. You've also got these interesting doors at the end of every tile that will lead you into the procedurally generated dungeon, which will follow a narrative, but also will add some randomization to the tiles as they're laid out. So that's pretty cool. And when you put it all together, if you're looking for something different in the dungeon crawler realm, this could be the ticket. In the 26th position on the list is Dead Reckoning. This comes from AEG. This is a 4x meets card crafting, and of course, John D. Clare is involved. So Mystic Vale, Edge of Darkness, you've got that card crafting going on through this. If you're interested in any gameplay whatsoever around the solo play, I've got you covered. Videos are on the channel for this one. This one sits happily at 26 on the list of anticipation. In the 25th position, we have The Great Wall. This comes from Awaken Realms. This was a hugely popular Kickstarter game, raising over $1,500,000 US and having over 15,000 backers. And this is set, obviously, as you can see, in ancient China. So you're building and defending the Great Wall in a unique worker placement Euro game. And this is one of the other reasons why I was excited about it. It seems like the community is as well, is that this is a Euro game, and Awaken Realms typically has a lot more Ameritrash style games. And from what you can see here in the video, it looks like it's going to lend itself very well to solo play. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out in the future, but this definitely holds down the 25th position. The 24th position belongs to Zombicide 2nd Edition, a massive Kickstarter, as these ones always seem to be. 21,000 backers plus, over $3 million, almost $3.5 million behind this particular project. And again, this is the 2nd edition. There's been many iterations of Zombicide along the way. This is the first one that's hit that 2nd edition level. So of course, as you go through this game, you'll notice quite a bit of streamlining going on, not only from the prior entries in the series, but also what they're looking to do with this one. Plus, there's an electronic tie-in to this in the future that's also going to add even more immersion into the game. So this is obviously hotly anticipated by the solo community. In the 23rd position, we have Storm Thunder Heirs of Ruin. This one, it was very popular on Kickstarter as well, over 800,000 US, over 4,000 backers. Is a story-based solo cooperative RPG board game for 1 to 4 players. It definitely takes its backbone in terms of how this game was built from popular PC role-playing games. And the idea behind this one is that you're going to be doing some exciting skirmish-based combat with deck building involved as well. Really excited to see more about this one, and it definitely seems to have that narrative draw that a lot of people are looking for in a dungeon crawler. In the 22nd position, we have Machina Arcana. This comes from Adrema Games, and it's a dark, immersive experience awaiting you and your group of explorers. You're going to be traveling to unknown places and fighting cosmic horrors, as it definitely has a tie into H.P. Lovecraft, as well as being it's placed in a steampunk setting. This is a very tough game. It's definitely one that you will want to chew on and honestly plays best solo. It's currently actually on Kickstarter for its 3rd edition, which is the Machina Arcana to Eternity campaign. In the 21st position on the list is Solomon Kane from Mythic Games. You are playing as Solomon Kane in a 1 to 4 player co-op game of storytelling, resource management, and tactical miniatures play. This Kickstarter raised over $1 million US and had over 7,000 backers. Solo players are pretty excited about this one, and I'm really looking forward to how the story actually evolves throughout the gameplay in Solomon Kane. There's obviously a huge tie-in and a lot to draw from what is existing within the universe of Solomon Kane, so there is lots to work with in this regard. Number 20 is Time of Legends Destinies from Lucky Duck Games, and this particular Kickstarter project raised $627,000 US, 8,900 plus backers for the campaign. It's a narrative-driven, very strongly rooted narrative-driven, app-driven, as you can see there, RPG-like board game experience, and it pegs itself as like no other. So for those of you that are looking for that next step in the evolution of things in terms of storytelling and app-driven experience, this is likely going to be the ticket, hence the reason why it's floating towards the top of this list. In position 19, we have Trudvang Legends from Cool Mini or Not. It is a rich fantasy world based on Norse myths and sagas where no game masters needed to experience story-driven adventures, and this obviously is based on the Trudvang Legends RPG, and it raised on Kickstarter just about $1.5 million with over 11,000 backers behind it. So again, another rich fantasy world that you can dive into and explore in a story-driven way, but also introduces a number of very interesting and different mechanics into the fray. Number 18 on the list is Bloodborne, the board game from Cool Mini or Not, raising over $4 million on Kickstarter, as well as having just about 24,000 backers. This thing is massive, and the board game is obviously based on Bloodborne, the video game, and it's going to take you through a dark and intense world that's going to be challenging as an action game where you're going to have to fight to survive through the town of Yarnam and fight your way through beasts, monsters, frenzied townsfolk, and survive the night and uncover the source of madness that is consuming this world. So it's definitely going to be a big time adventure and was very anticipated by the solo community. In the 17th slot on the list is Hexplore, the Sands of Shirax. This was a Kickstarter that raised almost 300,000 US with just about 2,500 backers, and this is going to have you entering the wastes to explore a rich world caught in turmoil. You're going to be building your heroes, powering them up, and facing hundreds of challenging scenarios. There's multiple iterations of Hexplore out there, and if you're interested in any videos on this one, I actually have Kickstarter previews for this, as well as content released in previous entries of Hexplore on the channel you can check out for more information. Number 16 on the list is Folklore, the Fall of the Spire from Greenbrier Games. This is an expansion to Folklore, the Affliction, and all the content already released for this cooperative solo adventure board game of mystery, fear, and dark fantasy. Now, this particular expansion is going to focus on your characters continuing the adventure through a series of stories in their quest to rid the land of evil. Advanced combat will be introduced, and town events will make even the return trip to civilization more perilous. The Kickstarter campaign raised over 600,000 US and had 4,500 backers plus. We're now going to move into the second half of the list, and we're going to start off in the 15th position here for Tenaris Adventures, and this is a massive expansion which landed on Kickstarter for a total of 100 plus hours of co-op content added in, a second reprint with reworked models, and Legendary Dragon Collection included. It raised over $1.5 million on Kickstarter, which is crazy high, and over 7,500 backers easily. This is another adventure that solo players are are well aware of at this point in time, as there's been other campaigns prior to this one for this, so it's constantly seeing more and additional content being added to it to flush out the gameplay even further. Number 14 on the list is Dice Throne Adventures and Season 1 Rerolled, a Kickstarter that raised $1.7+ million and had over 11,500 backers. It's a cooperative and solo campaign inspired by Diablo. So if you're into Diablo the video game, this will likely be the ticket. It has exploration, gold, treasure, upgrades, minions, and epic boss battles throughout. Number 13 on the list goes to Sword and Sorcery Ancient Chronicles, coming from Arius Games, a Kickstarter that raised $684,000 US and had over 5,000 backers. And this is bringing people back to the Sword and Sorcery gameplay that they were used to from prior Kickstarters, except inside of this particular season of the saga, its storyline is a prequel to the adventures reenacted in Immortal Souls. It's a standalone product, so you don't need Immortal Souls to play this one, but it remains completely compatible, so all the heroes and enemies of the first season can be integrated into Ancient Chronicles and vice versa to enhance the gameplay. This is one that's hotly anticipated by the solo community as a very rich dungeon crawler. Position number 12 belongs to Role Player Adventures, and on Kickstarter it raised $672,000 US and above. It also had exactly 5,900 backers, and this is a standalone co-op narrative board game for 1 to 4 players where you can import your role player character and go on an adventure with that character. So it's going to satisfy individuals that enjoyed role player and want more narrative storytelling with that character. This is going to be the ticket, or if you didn't enjoy the original role player because you found it not to be immersive enough, this should add that layer to push you over the edge. The 11th position on the list belongs to the Isofarian Guard from Sky Kingdom Games, and this raised $260,000 on Kickstarter with just about 4,000 backers behind it. If you're interested in more information in terms of the developmental gameplay and the videos I did for the Kickstarter, you can check those out on my channel to find out more about this great one. You'll see inside of this video that you're going to be exploring various areas of the country of Isofar in the land of Teleos, and you'll see and hear, the keyword being hear, the journey through the eyes of 8 members of the Guard. So you will have audio and voice acting behind this one that's going to immerse you in the gameplay more than the typical board game experience. We now enter the top 10 of this list for the most anticipated solo games, and in number 10 position, Altar Quest from Blacklist Games, a cooperative game of fantasy adventure for 1 to 4 players. If you're familiar with Hero Quest, you'll see the game board definitely is inspired from that game. However, the gameplay itself uses the modular deck system from Street Masters and Brook City and brings it over into this one as well. The Kickstarter campaign pulled in $620,000 during its run, as well as having over 5,000 backers. Position number 9 belongs to Sleeping Gods. This is from Red Raven Games. It's an immense open world storybook game from Ryan Lockett. So if you're familiar with his prior work, things like Near and Far, Above and Below, this looks to be even more focused on the exploration side of things. This is something that I think a lot of people wanted to see, and as more iterations of his game have come out over time, they've gotten closer and closer to that full adventure, that freedom to go anywhere that I think everyone is waiting to see. Near and Far had elements of it, and so did Above and Below to an extent, but this looks to push the envelope in that regard. The Kickstarter made well over $1 million and had 12,000 plus backers. In the 8th position, we have Aeon Trespass Odyssey, a Kickstarter which raised over $1 million and had over 8,000 backers involved. It's an epic 1 to 4 player massive campaign game of adventures, base building, and tactical battles with giant monsters. The closest comparisons to this game, based on its looks and its feel, would be Kingdom Death Monster. So this thing is going to be extremely large in terms of the content. They're pegging this at 200 plus hours of campaign content in the box. In the 7th position, ironically, is the 7th Citadel from Serious Pulp, and this is a Kickstarter which is currently ongoing right now currently has almost $1.6 million with almost 20,000 backers behind it in its first couple days. Those are huge numbers. It has 21 days left to go if you're interested. And basically, the mindset behind this is it is going to be a revision of the Seventh Continent in terms of the gameplay mechanics, as well as adding layers to the game, plus putting you in a completely different setting than what you would experience in the Seventh Continent. There's lots of gameplay changes that I could mention here, but the easiest thing I can do is refer you to my Kickstarter preview video, which will give you a full breakdown of all the changes going forward. Now, if we're going to talk about massive Kickstarters, in the number 6 position, we have Frosthaven. This was a huge one with almost $13 million raised during the Kickstarter and 83,000 backers. That is staggering numbers for this one. And it's a Euro-inspired dungeon crawling sequel to the 2017 smash hit Gloomhaven that we're all fully aware of. But there is all kinds of additional layers being added into Frosthaven to really flush out the in-between the scenarios. And you can see that on screen right now. You'll be able to build out Frosthaven and gain abilities and effects from that. Plus, there's a lot more to do with the cards and resources that you acquire in terms of card crafting. There's so much. If you want to find out more about the Kickstarter preview, or at least the Kickstarter in general, my preview will cover all that for you. You can find those videos on the channel. We are in top 5 territory now with Nemesis Lockdown from Awakened Realms. This project raised $6.5 million on Kickstarter with over 41,000 backers behind it. So all the solo players out there that were big time into Nemesis are now getting a standalone expansion to that hit game. And it's going to build on that tense thematic experience that Nemesis was well known for, and even adding more opportunities for emergent, dramatic gameplay that we all knew and loved from that first iteration. There's so much to love here as a solo gamer, and this one I am truly excited for. Number 4 on the list is Oathsworn Into the Deepwood from Shadowborn Games. It's a big-time 1 to 4 player dark fantasy board game. It's going to have an epic story with it. It's going to have giant monsters that you'll be fighting. The Kickstarter campaign ran almost up to $2 million and had 11,500 backers join in. I do have Kickstarter preview content for this one on the channel if you want to find out more. This game was 3 years in development, and it brings a flurry of unique mechanics to the genre. You're going to be navigating ancient maps with fully narrated audio gamebook and delving into a multi-path epic fantasy novel as well. So the purpose is you're going to be hunting this inside of this legacy style game, revealing mysteries and unlocking the hidden monsters you must face along the way. So it's going to open up all kinds of options. You can see the boxes on screen here, the envelopes, everything that you can break into in this legacy game. It's going to be quite the experience, and the boss battles are, well, they're pretty intense. In the number 3 position, we have Madara Unintentional Malum, the complete trilogy from Succubus Publishing. This raised $2.5 million plus on Kickstarter and had over 11,000 backers involved with this project. I do have videos on my channel if you want to check out more about the gameplay for this one as well. But essentially what makes this particular entry stand out from the others is it's deeply rooted and inspired by JRPG tactics games. So because of this, I think this is one of the major focuses and reasons why it's kind of risen up in its anticipation level over some of the other ones, because they follow a typical dark fantasy theme, where this one really does change things that way. Plus, of course, you've got that massive campaign just in the core box itself, and if you actually pick up all 3, a part of the trilogy, you are going to have an insane amount of content to go through here. Number 2 belongs to Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon, the second wave of shipping from Awakened Realms. The anticipation level on this is extremely high, and for those of you that are familiar with the core in the first wave that's already shipped, it's an adventure survival co-op board game set in a unique grim world inspired by Arthurian legends. So I do have videos of the gameplay for Tainted Grail on the channel. However, there were development updates updates throughout that initial portion of the Kickstarter that's already delivered. So some of the gameplay aspects no longer apply. The mechanisms have changed slightly, but the excitement level and the anticipation for the additional content that was mentioned during the Kickstarter is at an all-time high right now. Based on the Kickstarter itself, it raised over $6 million and had 41,000 backers plus. And the #1 most anticipated solo game from the Rolling Solo community is Etherfields, the board game from Awaken Realms. The Kickstarter pulled in $4.8 million plus and had over 32,000 backers. If you're wondering how this game plays, I do have Kickstarter preview videos up that you can check out to get a better idea of this. But essentially, the key here is that the game is extremely mysterious. You're going to be going through this dream world-like state, trying to figure out what is going on in the world. That's one of the major draws to this, is it mentions itself as a dream crawler, so it makes you think or believe that you're in a dream state of some type, but to what end? What is the purpose of all this? And that's what you discover as you play through the game. And everything you do is going to change the strange rhythm of the Etherfields dream world you're in. And if you're looking for coverage of the game itself, I have gameplay on the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.